Hello everyone, welcome back to the best place for the best takes. I'm Benjamin Cure. This is the Benjamin Cure Show. Happy holidays everyone. I hope you enjoyed it with your family and friends. Some amazing sporting action over the weekend for sure. Some NFL games on Saturday. NFL Week 16 was a lot of fun. Some more games on, of course, Sunday. But the big story on Sunday was those iconic Christmas Day games in the NBA. That's right. I'm talking basketball once again. I know it's been a while, but I don't like to talk basketball like most shows until after Christmas Day because now is when the games really start to matter. It was too early in the season to start when they started. So happy to be back. I might have even started this show with LeBron and the Lakers as the main topic, but we've got some breaking news out of the NFL first that I need to get to. Nathaniel Hackett has parted ways with the Denver Broncos. He is no longer the head coach in Denver. Can I just say it's about time? I mean, as a man of the people, I think I share perspectives that a lot of fans do. That's it. It was time to move off him. If you draft someone who's a bust, teams don't keep that player around long enough to pay out their entire salary. They move off them. They trade them. They release them. They cut them. I think you can even demote them to the practice squad. I don't know if that's ever been done, but I think that is an option. The point being, you move off them. You know it's not going to work. You've seen enough to know this ain't our guy. Can the same not be said in coaching? I know we like to give coaches a little more time because it takes time to implement their schemes, their attitude, and their culture into a locker room. And it's not as quick as a player's impact. But come on, the writing's been on the wall for Denver for quite some time. He lost the locker room months ago, and they've been out of contention for weeks. It was time. That's it. And let's give Denver their props here. This is the first step in the right direction for them. Because let's be honest here, you are not getting rid of Russell Wilson. That contract, the way it is constructed, I mean, Russell hasn't even started being paid his portion of the Denver part of that contract. Denver has not started paying their contract extension yet. Russ is still on his Seattle contract, so the dead cap hit would be insane. Trading him is, I mean, what's his value right now? It's just not possible, so he's going to stick around there for a while. And you can't part ways with the quarterback. You've got to get rid of the coach. And let's be honest here, something we know for sure now that we should have probably acknowledged earlier. Nathaniel Hackett, you knew by week 2, week 3, if you want to give him a little bit more leeway, he was not as responsible for Green Bay's offensive success as most people thought. That success was brought to you to the credit of Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. It had nothing to do with Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett clearly had no decision-making power and no play-calling power in Green Bay. I mean, what he has showed has been an abysmal performance of coaching throughout his time in Denver. He may never get a head coaching job again. I mean, he seriously needs to sit around with a team as a coordinator or as a quarterback coach and just sit there for a while because this was just a historic flop. It was really bad. And Denver now looks like schmucks. It's their first big move besides the Russell Wilson deal as a new ownership group. And it looks like you don't know what you're doing. And it's a bad look for the franchise. A franchise who is new and wants to be considered one of the big boys in the block. One of the wealthier ownership groups in the NFL right now. And this was kind of a humiliating last couple months for them. I'm glad to see they moved off. What is the next step for Denver at this point? I know people are saying don't take a risk. Don't go after another young guy. I mean, it all depends on what they want to do here. Maybe the main consensus is they go after a formidable mid-level coach. I think you put all of your eggs in one basket and you offer Sean Payton a $25-30 million a year coaching job. Yes, you heard me correctly. And if you're scoffing and laughing right now, let me explain. Denver's in a situation right now where they are not going to win big with a lesser than formidable head coach. Denver needs to find a superstar at the head coaching position to get the most out of Russell Wilson because you are stuck with him. And the coaching is an interesting situation because unlike player salaries, there is no cap. There is no maximum salary that you can pay to a coach. There's no players association or cap hit. There's none of that. They are allowed to pay a coach whatever he wants. And while it may upset other teams when you disrupt the coaching market like that. I don't know if the Broncos have a choice. You have an excellent roster right now. Excellent individual talent. That defense is absolutely amazing. Top 3, top 5, if you don't want to put them in the top 3. They have an excellent secondary, had an excellent pass rush. I know they got rid of Bradley Chubb and sent him over to the Dolphins, but still a very good defense. And you've got some really good offensive playmakers. I mean, Jerry Jeudy has not panned out the way they thought he would, but that has more to do with quarterback play than anything else. He had Drew Lock, and now he's got Russell Wilson, who has proven, let's be honest, Russ, amongst his other criticisms and flaws that I've mentioned throughout this season, Russell Wilson has lost touch of his deep ball, and that was the thing that we expected to be his show-stopping ability. Like, that's his superpower, that deep ball. All the highlights that you've ever seen of Russell Wilson on NFL highlights or on YouTube have been Russell Wilson rolls out to the left, rolls out to the right, throws deep, touchdown to a big guy like DK Metcalf or to a speedster like Tyler Lockett. That was his bread and butter for years, and he's lost touch of that. So regardless, I think the offense still has some playmakers there. Now, what does Sean Payton do? Sean Payton has historic success with an undersized quarterback who he was able to make a pocket passer and make lethal, an elite guy from within the pocket, throwing the ball. Short, deep, can scheme guys open. Of course, we all know about the memes that were made about guys like Michael Thomas for being, only slants and all of that. At the end of the day, that is coaching. That is scheming guys open, especially as Drew, over time, lost some of that arm strength. He had to really hone in on that short game. Sean Payton knew that. That's why Michael Thomas, which was such a pivotal part of their success in those later years and their almost Super Bowl trips. Of course, life happens. We know about the penalties, the missed calls, and the historic plays by the Minnesota Vikings. But nonetheless, we know what Sean Payton can do as a head coach. But Sean Payton is not going to miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime at his age of coaching a team in a great spot, a team that is already great in the Chargers, with a top 5 quarterback talent. That is the most attractive job for Sean Payton, and it's the one that he'll probably take. But if you're Denver, if you're that ownership group, for Christ's sake, they own Walmart. They've got the money. You offer Sean Payton a blank check. You offer him $25, $30 million to come and coach your team. Because as the only guy in NFL history, or one of the only guys in NFL history who has success coaching a shorter, smaller quarterback from within the pocket to have that kind of success, he is the answer to all of Denver's problems. And the only way you get him over there, your situation is not as attractive as the Chargers is. You have to offer him a blank check. So $25, $30 million, I don't know if that'll even do it. I don't know if Sean Payton is in it for the money at this point in his career. He's probably looking for more glory because he's a competitor. You hear him talk. He's such a football genius. He loves the game. And I'm sure he appreciates his own legacy and he wants to add on to it. The Chargers is the place and the franchise to do that with. But let me tell you, a team comes and offers you $25, $30 million a year to be a head coach, resetting the coaching market, making you the highest paid guy in the league. That's pretty attractive too. So at that point it becomes, what do you value more, winning or the money? And is there a middle ground in there? Is there an equation that he comes up with to justify either or? But I think Denver has to take a big swing here. They are probably going to end up with a formidable middle-aged head coach with more experience than some rookie. They're not going to take a chance again. But if they do take a chance, put all your eggs in one basket and go after Sean Payton. That's the way to make this franchise succeed. And with a team that is built so well right now, and you're not paying a lot of the defensive guys, I think you've got to make a last-ditch effort here to make sure you can salvage this. Because if you can't, I start trading away everything. Because this team is not going to be good for a long time if you don't get Sean Payton. They are not going to be a Super Bowl contender. Russ has lost touch of his number one superpower, his deep ball. And it's over for Denver if they can't figure this one out. Get Sean Payton. This is the moment that we have all been waiting for. Basketball on the Benjamin Cure Show. NBA Christmas Day games, a lot of fun to watch. The games start to matter more and more as time goes on. And this is the perfect time to start talking NBA basketball again. And if I'm going to talk basketball, I have got to start with the king, LeBron James and the Lakers. that first half against the Dallas Mavericks was a great showcase of their identity, what it has to be right now. Toughness, defensive presence, making every basket feel contested, making the other team, the opposition, feel uncomfortable when trying to shoot the ball and get in rhythm. That's what they have to be as a team because, quite frankly, their identity cannot be finesse, flashiness, or shooting because they don't have the talent to do that. They are not built like that in 2022. So, good job in that first half of imposing their will. Luka, I know he didn't shoot a field goal for quite some time in that game, but you can't help but wonder, was that defensive pressure not allowing him to get a shot off? Did he not feel comfortable doing so? So, it took him a while to get in rhythm. He eventually did and blew the barn doors off. So, we know how great that team did and how the game ended. Dallas, of course, ending that game in very embarrassing fashion for the Lakers and LeBron. And, you know, during that game, it's a high-profile game. You have commentators and some of the best broadcasters in the business doing the announcing. And they were very complimentary towards LeBron throughout the broadcast. And I thought that was great. They were talking about the scoring title, what he's doing in year 20. I mean, at his age, the kind of unprecedented success he is having and his unstoppable playmaking ability, even at this age, that we think sometimes he looks like he's 23 years old again. And I cannot help but feel disrespected on behalf of LeBron James. If I was LeBron James, I would feel disrespected by the Lakers. The Lakers are arguably the most dysfunctional franchise in the NBA right now because they don't know what their identity or what their approach is. Quite frankly, they have no plan. Either you're building for the future or you're trying to win now. Let's talk about the building for the future part. If the Lakers were really trying to hold on to that 2027 first-round draft pick like it was their firstborn child, then you're trying to build for the future. At that point, you get rid of AD when he's healthy, when he was playing extremely well, because you know that is not sustainable. Anyone who is in an analytics department who quite frankly has watched basketball over the course of the last 4 years knows, yeah, AD is excellent when he's healthy. When he's healthy. Availability is the biggest question mark surrounding AD. Every time he goes down, if you're a Lakers fan, you flinch. You're like, oh, is this the one? And eventually, it was the one. He's out right now indefinitely. I would have traded him if you were really trying to build for the future because you could have gotten some great draft capital out of that. Now, after this injury, you're not getting anywhere near the value you thought prior to him going down. Russell Westbrook, you know, doing great right now off the bench, showing some incredible improvement in the shooting game. I respect him tremendously for that. But once again, you know what's sustainable, you know what's not. Get Russell Westbrook out of the building before playoff time, before the trade deadline. Because, quite frankly, you know Russ is not going to be able to do that for the rest of the season. And in the playoffs, efficiency matters. If you even make it to that point, Russell Westbrook is not going to bode well for your team in the playoffs. Efficiency matters, and you know, you look at his stats, his shooting percentages from 3 and the field goal. I mean, it's the total opposite of what you need. The efficiency is not there. He's a very athletic, energetic guy, but it's not going to work in the playoffs. It's just not. So if you're trying to build towards the future, you trade those guys out of the building when they're healthy, when they're doing well. Buy low, sell high. That's the way business goes, even beyond basketball. But if you were not trying to do that, get rid of that first round pick in 2027 and get LeBron James a shooter. It is so hard to watch him play as well as he is, knowing the Lakers are not doing anything to support him. Yes, I know the Russell Westbrook decision was his. He wanted him over DeRozan. But guys, you don't double down on bad here. If the stock goes up 10% and then goes down 200, are you going to continue to hold? I mean, what are we doing here? Get those guys out of the building. Get LeBron a shooter. You know how far LeBron can take this team with a competent coach, with good supporting cast. It was time to get those guys out of the building a long time ago. You should have shipped off the first round pick and gotten LeBron a shooter. And if you're not going to do that, then I don't know what you're doing. But they haven't point being, I'm going in circles here. They didn't trade away for the future, and they haven't gone all in on today and now. And that is frustrating. If you are a basketball fan, even if you hate LeBron James, you can't help but feel like the Lakers are screwing you over here, man. I mean, they're not building around you, and they're not exactly showcasing that they're going to trade for the future. And that's a bad place to be in as a team. You don't want to be in the middle. You want to be all in or all out. If we're being honest, if they were really trying to trade for the future, they would have traded Russ and AD at their peak performances prior to AD's injury, and they would have gotten LeBron out of the building as well, if you were really trying to build for the future. But if you're not, then go out there and get some guys. And quite frankly, I think they should go out there and get the guys, because let's be honest here, Lakers. You do not have a good history of drafting in the first round, especially not when you have a high draft pick. The Lakers have drafted some of the biggest busts I have seen in my lifetime. Ridiculous. Abysmal front office, management, decision-making. I mean, the Lakers aren't exactly the Warriors here. The Warriors seem so modernized, so present day. They draft so well. They use analytics. They're very stat-centric. They know what wins in the NBA today. The Lakers feel like they're throwing a dart at a board and saying, okay, we're going to draft this guy. You know, he's kind of tall, has a good mid-range shot. I mean, these are the bare minimum things in the NBA right now. What are you doing? They don't draft well anyways. So if you really think you're still going to be owning the franchise by then, Jeannie Buss and the Lakers ownership group, if you think you will still own the team by then you know, hey, we're probably not going to hit on that draft pick either. Get the first-round draft pick out of your stock, bring in a shooter for LeBron, and show some respect to one of the greatest basketball players of all time and the greatest player of this generation. Get him help. Because what you're doing right now, this in-between I don't even know what to call it, this lull, I mean, this just looks bad. This looks bad for the Lakers, a team that has been so focused on their past with all these documentaries, the Showtime Lakers, and then releasing their own spin on the story and what they claim to be the truth. It's a mess. It really is Los Angeles at its peak. It seems like it's really messy, and they've got a lot of fixing to do. But if I was the Lakers, I'd support my star. You will not get a star like LeBron James ever again. So support him while he is here, and make sure the rest of the league knows that you support your stars. Because I guarantee you that everyone is looking at the Lakers right now and how they are handling the situation, and they know, man, that front office is not giving Bron any help. They know what's going on. Lakers, fix it. You're all in or you're all out. None of this in-between stuff. Sometimes people accuse me of having a superstar bias. I mean, I'm sure you could say that about me. As you saw in my previous take, I have so much respect and admiration for the best guys in whatever sport they play because they're truly game changers. But one thing you cannot accuse me of is being a hometown guy or having hometown bias. Some of my best takes about the Dolphins and the Miami Heat have been some pretty harsh ones. That's why they make the rounds on TikTok and nationally. And people respect those takes and they enjoy them because they know, although I'm from Miami, I'm not giving Miami teams a pass. And I'm not going to go soft on them. I am going to rip into them when I need to. And I'm going to say it like it is. And people have a lot of respect for that. That's why you watch this show. When you watch the Dolphins, it's so obvious. I mean, for that winning stretch at the beginning of the season when Tua was doing well, it was pretty evident he could be a great game manager. But that was against teams who are not in the playoff hunt, who are not playoff contenders, who are not Super Bowl contenders. They are below 500 teams. So he played great against those guys. But the reality of Tua's situation is Tua is a good NFL quarterback who can have really good moments and sometimes can even have great moments. But he is not a great quarterback. It's so obvious. Look at a Mahomes. Look at a Josh Allen. Look at a Joe Burrow. Guys, I'm only naming AFC talent right now. Look at the gap between those guys and where Tua is. It's so obvious. Even as a Dolphins fan, you cannot look me in the eye and deny the discrepancy and the obvious lack of ability and talent that Tua has compared to those guys. 2 weeks ago, Mike McDaniel played against the Buffalo Bills, and Mike McDaniel outcoached Sean McDermott and the Bills for 3 quarters in their home stadium. It was a coaching clinic. But what happened? Who won that game? The Bills won the game. because Josh Allen took over the game. Because great quarterbacks in 2022 can do that. Tua cannot. Tua cannot rise above his situation or rise above his circumstances on the football field. He hasn't shown you that. He has now taken on a couple teams in a row that are above 500, that are playoff contenders, and some even Super Bowl contenders from both the AFC and the NFC. And time again, he shows you the obvious disparity, the obvious jump in talent that you go from Tua to Josh Allen. And quite frankly, even Tua to Brock Purdy. I mean, the writing's on the wall for the Dolphins. It is too obvious. I'm not a Tua hater. I'm simply acknowledging the reality of the situation here. You look at Tua, you look at Mahomes, you look at Josh Allen, you look at Joe Burrow. They are not the same. They are not in the same class, and they are not in the same tier. So the Dolphins are going to be in a really tough situation this offseason because they're going to need to offer him the bag, a massive quarterback extension, $25, $30, $35 million a year, maybe even $40, because his stats are so off the charts, especially because of that stretch against below 500 teams. But in your heart of hearts, you know this guy is not going to beat Mahomes in a quarterback shootout. He's not going to beat Josh Allen in a postseason blizzard of a game. And he's not going to beat Joe Burrow in a game of situational football because he's not better than those guys. And he's never going to be better than those guys. We have seen the best of Tua. We know what he can be at his peak form. And it's not better than those guys. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm in a really tough spot. I would move off him because this roster is so talented, but I don't see who else is coming out of the draft that you realistically have a shot of grabbing. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're in a tough spot, and it's too obvious. Tua is not the guy for Miami. He is a guy that can take them from point A to point B. He can be their quarterback for 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years, but he's never going to beat a top-tier quarterback or a top-tier roster because in the fourth quarter, when champions are made, he can't outplay the guy on the other side of the field. He hasn't proven that he can. That's the reality of the situation. Cowboys fans hate it when I criticize Dak Prescott, but are we watching the same game? You can't win a game in the first quarter, but you can lose it. Dak Prescott's pick 6 on the first play of the game does not concern Cowboys fans. I've talked about his awful decision-making all season. And fans continue to be in denial and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I'm not watching the games. You're not watching the games. Come postseason time, if you win, it'll be because of your excellent defense, because of your offensive playmakers who have really grown into their own this season. If you lose, it'll be because of Dak. Look at the top quarterbacks in the league and stop being in denial here. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott. There's an obvious drop-off in talent between those guys. Dak is not nearly as capable in the big moment, and he can't take over games like those guys can. And he proves it. Watch those throws. And more importantly, watch the throws that he doesn't make. Go back and watch that game. You'll see what I'm talking about. Dak Prescott is a formidable quarterback, but he is not the guy in 2022. And he should not be the one that the Cowboys are relying on to lead them in the postseason on a Super Bowl run with a team that is as talented as they are. He will come up short again, and I will be right once again. That's all for today's show. I hope you enjoyed all of our takes. You can rewatch them on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. Until next week, I'm Benjamin Cure. This is The Benjamin Cure Show.